The most played champions for both Crown and Fly, it is Victor. So if they go for that strategy, and they are going to, they didn't ban out Aurelion Sol or Talia in their last match, and they have changed up that strategy. But KT, now Someday has not played a game of Gangplank this season. So taking it away, I think a really good call, because that's the one difference between his and Cube's champion pool.
And also you think about the overlap in the champion pools between Cube and Someday. It's not massive, but in their previous series between these two teams, they're banning Gnar and Echo, Samsung was, against Someday, which actually really hurts Cube's champion pool more than it hurts Someday in my estimation. So banning top lane, I think it's a losing strategy for Samsung.
Yeah, and you are going to see the Trundle banned here too, because Cube does want to take a tank. It was played in Game 2 of their last series, and Cube not a Trundle player himself. Varus and Lissandra. So the Lissandra played in both games by Samsung against Africa, and blind picked as well. So they don't want to give Crown that confident pick.
Makes sense to first pick the Rek'Sai after the Gragas is banned out. Samsung, though, getting some options. Important note, Aurelion Sol is available for Fly if he wants to take it. He wrecked Samsung with it in their last match.
One of the big bans was Malzahar as well, that's been banned against both these mid laners, but predominantly Fly, who was playing it before even the Mage rework. Malzahar wasn't available the last series between these two teams, but is available here.
Sure enough. So Tom Kench and Ash picked up for Samsung.
Pretty standard stuff on the red side. We do have Braum available in this patch, so there is some disengage available to deal with the Enchanted Crystal Arrow. In the previous patch, 6.14, you kind of were forced to take the Tom Kench as the answer to the Ash Arrow, but Braum is a bit of flexibility, and will we finally see that Aurelion Sol pick? It'll be your first time casting it, Doe, you were mentioning on Twitter.
It's so weird. I have still yet to cast an Aurelion Sol game, and if he locks in the Vlad, I guess I might have to wait a little bit longer, but we'll see. Stranger things have happened.
Now this is interesting to me because with the Malzahar still available, there's a possibility that we have seen the Malzahar as a counter pick to the Vladimir, so keeping that in mind.
Now Crown is the one who played Vladimir in both of the last games that Samsung and KT played against each other. Interesting to see Fly grab it this time around. And will we see Crown respond by picking the Aurelion Sol?
Certainly not a champion that he's played. And they are just going to take the Gnar blind pick, most likely for Cube.
You look down KT's lineup, it's very much team fight from the Sivir and Vlad in the second round especially. We were wondering, would we see another team mess around with poke? Afrika in game 1 went for a heavy poke comp, didn't play it that well, but given that that first turret blood is a factor in this patch, I thought maybe teams would experiment with that.
Hold up, we have a new term for this.
Okay.
It does first blood for a turret just doesn't make any sense, so we're gonna call it first brick.
I like it.
All right, the first
brick. Yep, you get first brick. And so Echo and Braum taken by KT to round out that team.
No surprises here. Someday's been exceptional on the Echo, and Braum has been the primary pick this season for both Hachani and Wraith. And as we look at this too, the Tom Kench coming back out, they picked in both games against Africa, and Wraith got MVP in one of those games, was very impressive.
And you touched on the Echo pickup for Someday. It's actually career undefeated on the Echo, 7-0, the longest win streak of any Korean player. So it's been a fearsome pick, 6 of those games this season. He was the one who innovated Trinity Force top lane Echo, and he looks damn good doing it.
Yep, and this Echo just will not go away. And, you know, when it's working out as well as it is for players like Someday, you know, why should it?
Someday has looked amazing on this pick. Both his Gnar and his Echo this season have been jaw-dropping, to say the least, and he'll be very comfortable against Cube in this matchup, and that's the question is, even though we do see some harassment here from the Gnar and the Elise, will Score and Someday be able to overcome and do what they do, which is get first blood?
Well, they're going to have to do what they've been doing all season long, and you know, why stop now? Especially against a team that has never beaten you, even in a single game.
In 2 years.
In 2 years, yeah.
And you look at the draft, both teams are playing teamfight comps, so theoretically the team that gets the better start is going to go on to win it because they pair up so evenly, and that's been KT 16 out of 16 times. So unless Samsung can really throw a curveball in the early game, KT looking solid.
Yeah, I mean, it's hard to say, and again, you know, the fact that the lane swaps don't quite work like they used to, or maybe just don't work at all.
Don't work.
Changes things quite a bit. You know, I mean, now maybe we have that delayed lane swap where they just wait for a little while. Who knows? Who knows? We're learning. right along with, well, hopefully the players aren't learning. Hopefully they've figured something out.
I really don't think they have.
No.
Like, not with the amount of time they've had to practice on this patch.
Might be tricky. Well, KT looking to make it 17-0 against Samsung in game score. Let's see if they can make it happen here in game number 1 of the LCK Summer Playoffs. Time to get in the game. All right, welcome to Summoner's Rift, Samsung versus KT Rolster. Winner goes on to play against SK Telecom on Friday. A best of 5 to decide who lives and who dies. Well, maybe that's a little bit too serious. Who lives and who goes home in shame. How about that? A little bit better? I think so.
Great shame.
You spider blood. I wouldn't want that.
Well, whoever loses at least still has a chance at the World Championship through the gauntlet, but
True.
of course both of these teams, the only real way they can punch their ticket to Worlds in the playoffs is by winning this entire season. Very important, impactful for both of these teams.
Any result other than Samsung or KT winning the season means that SKT will get that second guaranteed slot, even if Rox Tigers are to win the whole thing. Defensive fan is, as expected, it's a new patch. People haven't really investigated the level 1 strategies to a great degree, so very much defensive starts for both teams.
Yep.
Someday fans, right.
Hard not to be a Someday fan.
He just has had such an amazing second round robin. And we'll see what he can do in a matchup that should be highly favored towards him, at least in terms of skill between him and Cuvee.
You say highly favored, and one thing that we will notice is Someday has actually changed his keystone, not gone for the fervor of battle, so he's at least respecting the fact that the ranged opponent's going to get a lot of free harass. He's going to be fervor of battle for the Gnar, and he's going to go back to the grass for that little bit of extra sustain, because the early level is going to be painful for the Echo.
Yeah, certainly not a preferential champion matchup, a preferential player matchup.
Oh, easily, yes.
Yeah.
To clarify.
Definitely is a preferential player matchup, that's for sure. Wraith and Rulu, though, putting some pressure onto Arrow and Hachani down to the bot lane.
Got a little harassment done on the walk back in
Yep.
to the lane, so Hachani and Arrow are going to have to play back. Is a bit surprising still, even though Sivir, of course, very good at the wave clear. Not typically as good in most of these long-range 2v2s. Score seen by a Hawk shot here, heading through the Drake pit and over to the Scuttle Crab.
Yep, that might give Arrow and Hachani a little bit of breathing room, as Ruler and Wraith might want to back up just a bit, but nope, Wraith going up just to check out that Ruler rush, just to make sure that Ruler's safe. Meanwhile, Fly taking some pretty heavy poke early on here.
Yeah, just going to be able to sustain through the Vladimir lanes, go pretty predictably, given how much sustain you can get through those laning phases.
That guy's already surrendered. Oh wait, no, that's a Samsung flag.
I was more interested in the other guy who was flagged for explicit content with his t-shirt.
Wow.
Probably shouldn't be showing that on TV.
That's
He
true.
he definitely looks pretty edgy. Look out for that guy. Holding his hands with his girlfriend, man.
In Korea.
Intimidating stuff.
Last time we saw these two teams meet was Score getting first blood in both games, as his stats suggest. So saw him paying a bit of visit to mid, but we'll just back away and probably take the blue buff for himself, I guess, because Vladimir is certainly not craving any cooldown reduction this early.
True. Ambition running into the enemy jungle now. And how is Ambition going to do against Score? Well,
They're going to find each other very soon.
I was going to say, history has told us that Ambition does suffer from time to time, and he may be in trouble here, actually.
Oh boy.
Yep, Praise
Gnar's
Seeker comes
coming.
in, Fly collapsing as well. Cuvee coming down to try to help the jungler. Score flashes for the knockup. Stunned. Ambition still very low as Someday comes in to finish this one off. First blood goes over to that Echo, and they may get two here. Flashing for the follow. The gravity field slows up Score. Someday in trouble now. Crown picks up a kill. Score trying to at least get one more. Oh, but Achani comes in with the Q for the kill, and Score alive for the moment, but no, now that's a double for Crown. Looks like in the end, though, this messy fight is going to be, what was that, 2 on each? No, 2 on
Two
KT
for three.
and 3 on Samsung, I believe, yeah. All right, well, that was action-packed.
It certainly was, and the collapse there faster from the Gnar, and in fact, looked like there was a bit of miscommunication there from KT. Scorer didn't see that one coming in, but Echo gets there in time. They do overextend just a little bit right there, but the kill on Someday in that unfavorable matchup going to be nice for him, and overall, an advantage for KT. And two teams this season that have not been afraid to skirmish and get incremental advantages on these skirmishes have been KT and the Rocks Tigers.
So much credit to Hachani being on the first one on the roam, and Siva hasn't fallen behind in CS as well, so Hachani got the free roam, bit of extra gold to accelerate. You have to imagine the Sightstone, and good mindset from the support. Spares the blushes of KT that tried to play it really tricky. That's why Vladimir reacted so slowly. They didn't want to give away that they had the extra information with score waiting. End up 3 for 2 though, so advantage KT.
Yeah, absolutely. And those incremental advantages, I mean, that's really been the story of Someday's season, right? KT just does things that get him like a little bit ahead over and over again until he becomes this unstoppable force.
I mean, the statistics for KT this season are insane. I mean, rounding it out, the #1 team for kills, Monty mentioned already, #1 for gold difference of 15, so they're really running the early game. But other stats, Arrow #1 in kills, Hachani #1 in assists, Score #1 in overall KDA and First Blood, Someday #2. They've been doing really well in the early game, but then you look at the Drakes and like, okay, they're not prioritizing Drake. You look at First Turret, which is always a sign that you're being proactive in the early game. They're not really taking First Turret. What they prioritize is getting Someday ahead. So frequently, he has a 30, 40 CS gold lead. Now that's normally in lane swaps, so we're in a world of standard lanes. That number might go down. But otherwise, they're going to focus on getting the preferential lane matchup and, theoretically at least, Score ganking his lane to allow him to open up those same CS advantages.
Yeah, that gold advantage, too, has to come through dives now more often than not.
Sure.
But we've seen that plenty of times in standard lane from KT.
Yeah.
Score and Someday handily winning the 2v2. So Someday, too, is just, he does a huge amount of damage as a top laner, second only behind Expression in terms of percentage of his team's damage, and also takes a whole lot of that gold, but that's their game plan, is play around Someday with his champion pool and his skill. Because Someday, unlike Duke, is not only a lane monster, but has a much better sense of where to be on the map and win. And that is KT's bread and butter, is coordination around team fights, knowing how to work together. And it's a more equal team than many that we see here in Korea.
True.
Then you think of how Samsung won a lot of their series this season. It was mid to late game team fighting. So then again, we talk about the overlap. Two teams, both of them strong in the team fighting phase this game, both of them drafting team fighting comps. So you have to look for those X factors, and Someday, especially against his lane opponent Cuvée, is the big X factor between these two teams and Score. He's been the proactive jungler, and as recent as the previous series between these two teams, we saw Ambition picking up the Rek'Sai, being really reactive, and Score making the plays around the map that benefited Someday the most.
Yeah. In the end, KT certainly had a little bit stronger of a team fight. Here come Wraith and Ruler, though. Maybe trying to set things up for a dragon take. The Ocean Drake. Pretty nice if you're getting poked, but other than that, not super imperative to take that early on.
It's probably not going to be much of a factor in this game, the Ocean Drake, considering that we're going to be seeing so many all-in 5v5s with these team compositions. Obviously very helpful in lane, but when it comes to the late game, it will be one of the less impactful Drakes. Yep. We're going to be going forward early, though, and that probably will really help its benefit, particularly for Someday in that matchup of melee versus range.
Yeah, look at where his tunnel is. He just barely snuck in there outside of the vision that Samsung had, so they have no idea this is going down.
Got the standard Tiamat first, so even though not the tankiest, and will take damage from it, picks it up very safely.
Yeah. So it is nice to have that dragon at least. Not, again, you know, super important, but it is nice. Someday, though, getting pretty low. Got to be careful. Someday just 1v1 by Cuvée. Wow.
Someday didn't feel like using his Chrono Break, I guess. That was a little weird.
Yeah, or his flash.
Or his flash. I guess he just miscalculated the amount of damage that was going to be done to him.
Apparently.
We've seen this before, though, Monty. More in spring season than summer, but Someday sometimes really gets in his head. He said this in interviews that I need to carry. I need to be the difference. And he looks for those aggressive 1v1s, and sometimes he gets punished, just like, of all people, Cuvée has just done.
Yeah. That was really the story of KT for Worlds last year, too, because he came out of the summer season as the overall regular season MVP, but when he had to face the Rocks Tigers and it was the 1v1 between him and Smeb in the quarterfinals, he really didn't deliver.
I mean, you say that, but he actually got the early first blood, got the gold, and then died twice in lane, 1v1. So they can have those polarizing performances, but he's been a model of consistency, especially recently.
Yeah, very surprising, but QV will take it, his first kill of the game.
Yep, not the end of the world for KT, but definitely a little bit puzzling.
Now Samsung with a TP advantage, they can really try and make something of this edge that they've managed to get over KT in the early part of this game, if they can figure out a place to make a play or a dive on the bottom side of the map.
Yeah, a lot about this team from KT is Someday applying pressure and Vlad and Sivir farming. Vlad and Sivir hit their peak at 2-3 items. Under the turret here.
Oh, Someday going back in again. He's still got that flash. He may have to use it. Score was right there, so maybe a little bit of a miscommunication about when Score was coming in, but
Ruler.
really doesn't work out. Ruler now in a little bit of trouble. Arrow exhausted. Ruler flashing away. Looks like he's going to live through this one. Wraith has plenty of health yet, if you include that shield, so nobody going to go down there.
Yeah, the play actually, Score was seen with a nice hawk shot from Ruler, so Samsung was well aware they were coming in. And Someday picked up turret aggro a little bit early and then missed the parallel convergence shield.
I see.
So it was a miscommunication, also a little bit of misplays here. KT not really rounding out that strong early skirmish with more impressive play, dropping the ball on a couple of different occasions.
Yeah, Score gets caught up by the cocoon. Need to be a little bit careful, but Fly is right there to make sure there's not going to be any collapse from Samsung. Good amount of damage on that first turret up in top lane.
While there's a lot overlapping between the two team comps, the one differing factor is around this point, the moment Enchanted Crystal Arrow comes available, they have Ash Arrow and they have Nara with a teleport advantage. This is the one phase of the game where KT during laning phase can make really impressive 3-4-man plays in the bot lane. It's a window for Samsung to actually make those plays now before KT really get the scaling going on, because 2-3 item Vladimir and Sivir, you know how those team fights are going to go from there. I want to see Samsung make some aggressive plays, use that arrow and the Nara teleport. Otherwise, if you just end up getting casually outscaled, you kind of only have yourself to blame.
Yeah. Well, Someday actually behind in CS to Kube though right now. A little bit surprising again to see.
Well, he does have the short end of the stick in that matchup, and also did some CS by dying. Wraith pop into lane.
All right, so CBLOL has to be used. Ajani in a lot of trouble. Ambition coming down to help with the gank, and an easy kill for Samsung there.
Really nicely done. That's the sort of play I was looking for. Don't even have to invest the teleport. That channel time on the Abyssal Voyage being shortened is the real MVP in that situation, allowing Ambition to get to the back line, and nice kill from Samsung.
Yeah, Johnny didn't even have time to use his summoners right there, thanks to the chain CC. Someday.
Oh, wow, another 1v1. Are you kidding me?
Flash and his Chrono Break up again Someday.
This is very bizarre.
The pressure seems to be getting to him. Again, he's had those interviews where he talks about pressure and thinking that he has to perform. This is a matchup that he should be so confident in, but...
Well, it's a matchup that he's crushed multiple times this season already, and now he dies twice in lane in the 1v1 with both his ult and his flash up. I don't know what's going on.
And the thing about using that Chrono Break too is, in the first part, maybe he's afraid of the jungler being there, but he literally knew that Ambition was just on the bottom side of the map, so there is not going to be any backup and any waste of his ult right there. But regardless, should have used it in both situations. And Samsung coming through, and when we look at Wraith and this Tom Kench, he was MVP because his Abyssal Voyage plays were so good.
Yeah, Ruler in trouble now, getting ganked. Braum ultimate comes in. Wraith picks up his AD carry, tries to deliver him to safety, gets stunned, but it's going to be enough distance. Ruler will make it out.
Really worrying for KT. They were relying on Someday to have lane pressure to allow Vladimir and Sivir to go even and scale up. Now that we're seeing solo kills from the Nard, the hopes for lane pressure are dead. Only so much Score can do. We're seeing Ruler go aggressive here.
Yeah, Ruler throws the Ash Arrow in, hits Ambition with it. Exhaust onto Arrow to slow him down. Let's see if Ambition can land a cocoon. Arrow pops out on the hunt, loses the support in the meantime. Someday comes down and grabs a bit of revenge kill under the turret.
That's actually really smart from Someday. He ulted the moment he got the kill so he could get back to lane. Cuvée obviously has to recall and walk up, so he's going to get CS lead from doing this. Nice play from Someday.
Well, he also has a Trinity Force with that turret, so Someday really coming through there, just walks on by, takes out Wraith, and that ultimate with the Trinity Force will allow him to get that turret gold, and that is 650 local gold in the pocket.
Yeah, that is a big turnaround for Someday now.
I mean, consider that. That's 2 kills worth of gold. 300 is, of course, before bounties come into play. The standard amount of gold, so that evens it up. He's actually ahead in gold against a Na who's just solo killed him twice.
He got the first brick.
First brick is his.
And the first brick is made of gold. Literally.
It's a lot of gold. It's worth 2 kills.
It's a gold brick.
Score back here now.
All right, Score manages to smite away the Cloud Drake, so KT does manage to secure both of the early Drakes in this game. Not hugely impactful, although Cloud Drake pretty nice as far as map movement goes these days.
Both of the games between these two teams, again, less than a week ago, was super one-sided, but we do have a series, or at least a game here so far, so good to see Samsung at least good so far in the early game, even if it was a lot to do with Someday overextending in top.
Yeah, he's got a kill, though. He just has to not die in the 1v1 again.
He went back and bought Merctress, doesn't help him that much against Cuvée.
All right, Score and Ambition coming up. No turret now for Cuvée to use to stay safe. Ambition turning things around. Here comes Crown. Fly, both mid laners are there. And Score sticks around a bit too long to go after that ward, and he may pay for it. Fly gets the Chaos Storm dropped on him. He's going to have to retreat. And now Wraith nearby. Both supports coming up to the mid lane to see what they can do.
Bit sloppy there by KT. Score sticking around for that ward actually caused Fly to use his Ghost, which he hadn't used. Crown had been forced to use Ghost to just make it up to that lane in time to defend. So they could have come away with a summoner advantage there. Instead, they don't even get a ward, and they match the summoner. Still not a disaster, but just not very clean play from KT.
All used by Crown too, but it's not on a very long cooldown, so it's not going to make a huge difference.
Do consider the fact that although it feels like Samsung has had the run of the first 16 minutes, KT are ahead in gold and have the 2 Drakes. They're both team fighting comps.
Yeah.
The disasters are averted to a great degree for KT, but Samsung at least competitive early in this match.
Yeah, but competitive by their own merits or by Someday kind of making mistakes.
I think.
What do you think?
Definitely more of the latter there, but still Samsung have played pretty organized League of Legends, and KT have made some mistakes, you know, both on Score in that last skirmish and Someday more visibly in the top line.
Ocean Drake coming up next. And so we'll see who ends up grabbing that. Samsung needs to kind of keep the momentum going here if they want to have a chance of winning this game.
KT2, I think while both comps would be good in the late game, I do think you give the slight edge to KT's composition. They don't have the Elise, so you have the Rek'Sai, who is more impactful in late game team fighting. Both with Vladimir and the Victor really putting out a lot of damage. Sivir, a little bit higher damage output. And when there's so much AoE on KT, the Tom catch is not that big of a deal because sure, he'll be able to save one person, but everybody's going to get hit by the Hemo Plague and ricochets, so not really that important.
If you do compare the...
Crown is in a little bit of trouble. Braum ultimate used. He's going to get juggled. He's going to get taken out. In a minute. You wait for it. No, he stays alive. Hachani now the one fighting for his life. Fly exhausted. Score trying to slow up Samsung here to save his support. Arrow backing away after he loses a duel with Ruler. And somehow, some way, everybody lives through that.
Insane that no one died. It was a flash heal from Ruler.
Maybe we spoke too soon. Someday going after Cuvée. Fly coming up to help out. Cuvée a little ways away from the Meganar. He's getting close, though. Someday low. Yeah, you got to back away, especially with that Meganar coming up now.
Yeah, flash heal from Ruler to save his mid laner. Big investment, but necessary. No one dying, even on the back end, is crazy, though.
Well, Chani got so low in that fight, too.
Yeah, Score had to flash on Burrow just to save him, but they left Crown for dead because he had the Hemo Plague on him and very small amount of HP. But Ruler there with the save. That has been one of Ruler's strong points, even as a rookie player this season. Has been reading his team's movements and being able to show up for team fights. Has a pretty good amount of map awareness when it comes to joining skirmishes compared to most rookie AD carries. Back at it, though.
Yeah, blue buff, contested. Score gets wrapped up. Chani trying to help out his jungler. Fly there, and we'll see who's able to claim this one. Looks like it will go over to KT. Who got it, though? Looks like, I think Score.
I think Ambition got it.
Yeah, maybe actually Samsung did get it. Thought I saw the gold pop above KT, but could have been wrong.
Still not ideal for it to be going on to the jungler. Crown really wants that to match the wave clear. Fly, as he's getting closer and closer to 5 points and is tied to blood, will be able to match Victor in his famous line wave clear just fine.
Yeah. Meanwhile, up at the top lane, CS still very even between these two.
He's going double laning items, so he's not trying to build just for team fights. Will be Black Cleaver and Frozen Mallet. Ruler will be the big beneficiary there. Already has the Hurricane, so armor penetration from the Wallop and the skills from the Gnar will certainly synergize with the Ashe's damage.
Yep. And Fly just farming in mid. Again, like CS is so even across the board with these two teams actually.
Fly understands that the one difference between the two team fighting comps is that KT doesn't really have initiation. Sure, they have a Sivir ult, but there's no Gnar ultimate. There's no Ashe arrow, so Ghost Flash Protobelt might have to be the initiate from the Vladimir of all people.
You've got Braum, I guess.
Yeah.
If he gets a good Glacial Fissure, that can do it.
Johnny actually has been doing a good job of initiating with Braum, but it has cost Flash, and that's where you really have to look, is that KT is much more Flash reliant for their engages, whether it's Rek'Sai or Chani, while Samsung, as you noted, does have the Ashe arrow.
Very true. Poking around. Dragon getting pretty close to coming up. It is another Ocean Drake.
At this point, Samsung kind of have to deny stacks away from KT rather than necessarily the Ocean Drake being the relevance there, because Elder Drake with 3, 4, 5 stacks is going to be a big amount of damage in late game team fights.
Certainly could be.
Cube actually went to the mid lane quite early, and he's returning back as the wave is pushed up as the Drake went wide. So I think Cube actually dropped down to the team fight about 15 seconds before he should have, and it actually has cost him position on the map right now. Someday will be the one able to run over here and maybe get a TP advantage if they do decide to go for the Drake.
They don't have really any great wards around the Drake either, do Samsung, so you're not necessarily seeing Gnar flank wards set up for them yet.
Yeah, Score going over the wall. After
Killed
Ambition.
those spiderlings.
I guess so, yeah. Combo. Smash with Johnny coming in onto Wraith now. They're going to get the passive popped. Wraith stunned for just a moment. Score nearby, but Arrow's got to be careful. He can't take too much damage if they really want to contest his Dragon. Ambition repelling away.
You Sivir ult already.
Yep,
wow,
right.
one-man Hemo play.
Jeez,
that
I
is
don't know
not
if
how
that
you want to
was-
use that.
Yeah, I don't think that was worth it, especially with the Dragon coming up. That seriously hurts KT's ability to team fight.
He thought that Score would come in, but actually Score was stunned up by the Victor W and so couldn't move out. Didn't have Flash either to go for an aggressive pick. So Hemoplague wasted, Sivir ult wasted. Suddenly, you have to have some pause if you're KT about starting this Drake before those cooldowns are up, and that's why Samsung just rushes it down.
All right, Samsung grabs their first Dragon of the game.
Yeah, they got 2 ultimates there out of KT, and so KT making the next best decision, which is to go for a tier 2 turret, or at least some of the damage on it, but sort of outplaying themselves right there. And the Hemoplague is incredibly important to KT's late game team fighting, because what you want is to get the extra 10% damage for Sivir ricochets. It can be hugely, hugely damaging, but you have to be able to use that combo properly.
I mean, 10% of unbelievable damage in the late game. 10% extra is just crazy for the Sivir.
It's gravy, man. It's gravy, Papa Smithy.
Okay, it's gravy.
That's what she turns her opponents into when she has that. That's right, gravy.
Interesting that we see Rapid Fire Cannon as a second item on Sivir. That's a bit of a rarity.
Suppose Arrow just a little bit afraid of getting close to any fight.
I mean, also for turret sieging, they don't really have any ranged auto attackers, just the Vladimir, so at least that first auto attack onto a turret, so poking it out over time is a bit safer for the Sivir with that item.
Meanwhile, in mid lane, things again still pretty even. Fly, though, has not yet died this game.
GA second on Sunday.
Wow.
We'll probably see GA third on Cuvée, because that's been the popular Gnar build, has been Frozen Mallet, Black Cleaver into GA. But Sunday with, he's been prioritizing GA, but never really this early.
I mean, at the end of the day, there's a very even amount of damage in terms of magical and physical on the side of Samsung. He'd love to build just like a Spirit Visage or something like that, but he's already getting pounded in lane, and now it's double laning items from Cuvée, so kind of splitting the difference, but a lot of that gold spent is going to be the Guardian Angel passive, or the revive, so needs to be careful not to waste that.
Yeah. We're kind of gravitating towards mid lane right now.
is interesting, but Samsung can't actually stack up mid because they are pushed back in 2 of their side lanes. Sunday here just covering, and that's one of the real big strengths that we talk about, especially when KT is playing a Aurelion Sol or Taliyah. But covering lanes and maintaining pressure is one of the biggest factors that KT has when it comes to winning games, is that they never really release the minion pressure on the lanes because they're so good at moving around the map and just pushing minion waves while the other team members recall.
That doesn't sound like a significant point, but what it usually means is that KT are just getting access to CS that's dying to enemy turrets for other teams. So just that smart rotation means that that's one of the big reasons why they have the biggest goal difference at 15 is that no CS goes wasted for KT Rolster.
Oh boy, that turret bot lane's going to go down.
It also creates situations like this where Samsung is scrambling here because KT is pressuring bottom turret and blue buff at the same time, and they're going to get both.
Well, Score got the blue buff, but he may pay for it. Glacial Fissure used. They're going to get the kill on the Score, or rather Hachani giving his life for his jungler.
He wasted the teleport. He was exhausted during it, thought he had to clean up some kills, but there was no overinvestment from KT, so now Sunday does have that teleport advantage.
Still a closer game than I think we expected here.
Well, Samsung looked good against Africa. Played some clean League of Legends. Certainly Africa didn't put up much of a fight, so it was a little bit hard to tell.
It was.
In that scenario, how good Samsung actually was in the playoffs, but today, we've seen some nice play, especially from Wraith.
Yeah.
The KT have kind of given them, and Sunday in particular, have kind of given them a reprieve in the early game. And if you went to Samsung and said, hey, do you want to come into the game 25 minutes in, even in gold, they'd take it every time. Because it's been, again, the playmaking of Score and Sunday and their high first blood rate that has opened up games for KT. Otherwise, both these teams known for their late game team fighting, and it seems like we might actually have pretty even footing 30-35 minutes in.
We certainly will. First turret of Samsung's game finally going down up at top. Another about 2 minutes until the Ocean Drake comes up. Probably not going to see a whole lot of action until then.
Man, 3 Ocean Drakes already.
Yeah.
An Infernal Drake may actually just entirely change the outcome of this game.
Well, it's going to have to be either Cloud Drake or whatever the third one is after this.
Infernal Drake, let's go.
Yeah. Fun time. We will see. KT starting to grab a little bit of vision around that Baron, too. I mean, that's something else they can kind of use. If Samsung wants to commit to that Dragon, KT can threaten the Baron.
Yeah, both teams have good Baron damage, so it is a realistic objective, especially 27 minutes in. The trend recently was those 22, 23-minute Barons, but it's been so even so far this game that we haven't seen it.
Fly using the Proto Belt just for more poke or something, it looked like on Crown.
Short cooldown though, so he'll have it up by the time any real dragon fight breaks out, one would assume, and Score
should be
tied up and drawn right back in by the gravity field. Don't follow up though. Crown not getting baited into using his Chaos Storm too early.
The Chaos Storm will certainly do some damage to the backline. It's selfish magic resist choices from KT. 3 Spirit Visages, but no sign of a Locket. There already is Locket completed for Tom Kench. Victor especially can do a whole lot of damage to Arrow. Might be able to pop him instantly if the spell shield's on cooldown.
We'll Sonya's just actually completed. Fly had that Seeker's Arm Guard, so major item pickup here, 10 seconds before Drake spawns.
There's no ambiguity about Fly's plan in teamfights. Ghost Flash, Proto Belt in with Sivir and then you have the ability to reset aggro with both the pull and the Zhonya. So it's initiation, Vladimir.
Uh-oh,
sure.
Score caught. Going over the wall, that was a tense moment. They got him with the cocoon, but he managed to make it out. Still not the champion you want poked out right before Dragon comes up.
Samsung has to act fast though, because otherwise the minion wave will be pushed into their tier 2 and bottom.
Oh, they're getting it so fast. So teleport coming in for KT, Kubi coming down from the top. Dragon taken by Samsung. 2-man Hemo play from Fly as he pulls away. KT coming down the river now. Kuve untouched. The backlines. Fly goes deep. Onto Ruler, going to use that Zhonya as a kill comes in for Crown. 1 on the KT side, 2 on the KT side as Someday comes into the back of the fight. Kuve with a 2-man Gnar ultimate, still very powerful, but it looks like KT is going to clean this one up. Kuve with a lot of help, may be able to get Fly. He's so close, but he doesn't pick it up. GA might give him another opportunity. Nope, They won't. That is a clean ace, nearly clean ace, that is, for KT. And what will they do? Probably push down this mid turret and then go back.
Fly was really the hero of that fight, getting in onto Ruler in the back line so efficiently. Ruler didn't really have anywhere to go. Great use of pool in the Zhonya's Hourglass to tie up the AD carry. Score coming right back in with the Void Rush. Fly dedicated to taking down the mid-tier 1, and KT splitting to see if they can get two things at once.
They're going for everything in this play. Coming back to the dive from the Vladimir. No Devour for Ruler at any point in that fight. I wondered where that cooldown was used. We'll have to wait for a replay. But the Ashe, again, zerged down by the Ghost Flash Protobelt Vladimir, and KT stacking advantages and blowing this game open.
Look at that, they really did. Got the mid turret, got the red buff, got the Baron. Let's watch that fight again.
We saw a series between these two teams where Wraith just didn't consider his AD carry and his Ashe kind of died for free. And you see that Devour isn't used to open space for Ruler at any point, and there's nothing he can do when Somedays just diving straight at him, takes him down in the backline. And that honestly is the big difference between the two teams, that Arrow gets so many more auto attacks onto relevant members of Samsung and doesn't even die during this fight.
Well, also just a really good use of exhaust onto Crown there. He was Hemo Plagued first alongside Arrow, and then the exhaust came through onto the Victor, and because Ruler was tied up by the Vladimir and the exhaust was onto Crown, also Cube wasn't in position to get into Mega Gnar when that fight started, so a lot of things going wrong there for Samsung, but KT just isolating the carries and winning the team fight.
Yeah, that's a pretty big statement, too, for a point in the game where both teams are relatively even. For KT to win a team fight that one-sided, you got to be worried if you're Samsung someday. You got to be worried if you're Ruler, too. Gets away via Wraith, but that was a scary moment for the AD carry.
While I was talking about the damage synergy between Vlad and Siva, also consider what else KT has in the fight. They had to snap back from Echo, all the ways to drop aggro from the Vladimir, and both Victor and the Ashe kind of need setup, kind of need peel. They can't really fend just for themselves, and Cube also needs to have that situational Gnar ultimate, so the situational stuff not coming together for Samsung, and KT zerging them down.
Wow, they have begun to crush Samsung at this point. Two more turrets already with that Baron.
I mean, they have since Someday can't be in a side lane right now without teleport, they've just adjusted by having the Ghost Vladimir and the Void Rush Rek'Sai in the side lane. Rek'Sai here with that Tiamat can clear out the waves pretty damn fast, and there's going to take several towers as a result. KT with great lane assignments and no way for Samsung to answer.
Well, the way they're closing out this game looks so crisp right now. It was definitely shaky early on, but it's looking good at the moment. Arrow Popsy on the hunt. But, nope, just wanting to give themselves some breathing room, I suppose, to walk away.
I mean, that was the epitome of a Baron power play. This game was, what, 1,000 gold between the two teams? Now we look at it, 7,000 is the gold lead. The turrets have come raining down. Only a single turret still to Samsung's name. KT just blew it open off one team fight, and that's what the best teams in the world will do to you.
Someday, too, look at his itemization. Thorn Mail now, and a Warden's Mail that he just picked up. So Ruler, well, he's going to be basically killing himself on Someday.
Yep.
And I'm a little bit surprised that Someday didn't decide to go Dead Man's Plate. Just going for the tankiness, and I guess it works both versus Cube and in the team fights against Ruler.
You know, the other thing to take note of is if you look at his scoreline too, at one point he was like 1-3-1, and now he's brought that up to 4-3-4. So certainly a much better later half of the game than early on.
Echo's laning phase is one of the main reasons we saw it come back in. Look at the chunk on Ruler from just a single boomerang blade, but the thing the Tank Echo always did was run an immobile AD carry. That is the meta right now, the Jins and the Ashes of the world. And this Echo with both the ultimate Guardian Angel, now Thorn Mail and the armor stacking, literally there's no counterplay for Ruler. He has to be zoned from a fight because no one can peel away this Echo.
Well, at least he's almost got his flash back up. That will be a small comfort.
That'll save him, Monty.
It will. It will. Watch.
I mean, it might, but it won't save him forever.
No. Well, I don't think anything can save Samsung at this stage.
Yeah.
KT going to go for a second Baron before they crack the base. They've got the run of the game right now, putting all the pressure on.
Well, they can certainly go for this Elder Dragon, too, and it comes up in about 40 seconds now.
I think the main problem here for Samsung is this game. You got a good lane matchup with the Gnar into the Echo. You even got 2 solo kills from the Gnar into the Echo.
Yeah.
It went about as well as Samsung could have hoped for, and KT still looks like they're going to win this game. So in games 2 and 3, if KT can steady the nerves, somebody can calm down, or even just get a better lane matchup for himself, how is Samsung going to win this series?
I mean, I think when it comes down to it, you look at it and it's kind of like what we talked about. At the end of the day, KT just looks like the better team. And though they faltered early on, they have certainly gotten it together here in the latter half of Game 1. And one wonders, if you're Samsung, what are you going to do to try to win this one?
Made pretty similar summations of the Africa Freaks and their 2-0 loss against Samsung. And it just seems to be the run of the world right now. It's the better team, especially in a situation like this where there isn't a big team fight identity difference between the two in the late game. Will come out more often than not, and even with the assists for Samsung, they just couldn't find a way to actually find a big lead.
Several to use, but the Ash Arrow catches score on the way out. He's got that GA, he's got the tunnel, not too worried. Someday comes in the side. Cuvée forced to use that Gnar ultimate on only Someday. I say forced, but was it forced? Did you need to do that? I'm not so sure.
It was used a lot there, as Someday just strolled right in and absorbed quite a few cooldowns. Arrow there just gets out of trouble pretty easily by using the On the Hunt, and that's going to be up pretty soon again. And
uh-oh, why? Never mind, use Vladimir.
Yep, cool, Proto Belt, Zhonya's flash. No way he was getting killed right there.
Yep.
All the easy objectives are taken by KT Rolster. Only the inhibitor turret line is left for Samsung, and because they are famed for those rotations, actually always getting to the minion waves, you can see the chip damage has been done to the top turret. Pressure never ends, and only now Samsung is able to push out of their base.
KT not too interested in the Elder Dragon right now, but when that Baron comes up in 40, I think we're going to definitely see them making a play for it.
See, the downside of actually going towards Elder Drake is that you actually relieve enough pressure for Samsung to get wards anywhere near the Baron. Because
true.
If you just keep the lanes pushed up, you know they can't have vision because you've seen the 5 members of Samsung frantically trying to pick up CS and stop their turrets go down. You kite back, maybe there's going to be a couple of trinket wards, but that's the best there's going to be for Samsung.
Well, finally, possability, somebody has some grievous wounds. They had the Morellonomicon, but without Ignite in this game, and we didn't really touch on that, Wraith going for the Exhaust instead, meant that there have not been very many good answers to Vladimir healing over time.
Morellonomicon certainly a situational pickup, though, for the Victor, so they were clear on that. But I guess you need the Exhaust when you have an immobile AD carry like Ash. Didn't really have space for the Ignite.
Yeah, all right, might be going in under Wraith here. Gets caught by that gravity shield. Has to pop that gray health. Fly coming in. They pop on the hunt. KT still pursuing here. Wraith very low on the side of the fight. Arrow has the Chaos Storm on top of him, but it doesn't seem to really be bothering him too much. And Fly just wrecking people. Score coming in the back lines now. With that knockup, gets the double kill, pops the GA on Cuvée. Hachani and Someday diving into the base. Someday snapping back, looking for the kill on Ambition. Looks like he might get it when the repel comes back down. Either that or Ambition's going to get a double via the turret, but either way, KT's still looking pretty good. Cuvée about to go Mega Gnar, but he's going to be Mega alive? Maybe dead. The battle. Score versus Cuvée.
Just going to push down the mid turret right here. Someday on the run, doesn't want to use his GA proc. Arrow's going to get the inhibitor eventually.
The thing is by Cuvée dying so long after his other teammates, it's really going to put him out of sync with the respawns.
I mean, he may not die, but there's TP coming in.
I mean, it doesn't really matter. As long as he's out the base, they can get the inhibitors just like Arrow did right now. It's a great Gnar chase 2016.
Frozen Mallet is so annoying.
Kill the Yordle.
It is. Go, minions, go!
It's all right. They still have the Void Rush here from Rek'Sai.
Yep.
All right, let's go, Rek'Sai.
Yep. Oh, you can hear it coming in.
The great Gnar Corral.
That's right. Oh, he's tricky. Ooh. Wow.
Hide behind the Grom.
Oh, he's TPing. They spot him. Not quite.
Wouldn't have interrupted him anyway. He gets out.
All right. So during all of that, Arrow was able to walk up and kill the mid inhibitor. So KT still getting a lot out of that team fight. Helps him put extra pressure onto the Baron. Now that the super minion waves are pushing up mid.
It's a bit generous to call it a team fight. Vlad ulted, Sivir got a couple of ricochets, and Samsung damage dealers, specifically Crown, exploded. They went a bit of a silly season afterwards with the overchase and the turret dive, donating some kills to Ambition, but this is just what happens when KT reach a 4 or 5 item threshold. They're going to look for that second Baron as well.
Yep, clearing out some more that Samsung somehow got in there. KT pushing up the mid lane again as Score focuses on clearing out those waves up in top.
Just waiting for this next Baron right now. Slow push here into the mid lane by KT as they struggle to regain control of this map, but Samsung just wants to clear out the super minions.
So one thing KT could do in this scenario, because we mentioned they don't have a lot of initiation apart from, Ghost Flash Vladimir. Something Samsung did that I was impressed by was pick up the Elder Drake, start Baron, even in Vision, the enemy has to fight you, and 90 seconds is plenty of time to take down a Baron, it guarantees it. But in this situation, Samsung so far haven't been able to test, but they're walking up.
KT focusing on that Baron, they're going to stick to it, they're going to get it. Now Kube trying to leap away, actually. Ash Arrow gets Fly, and Hachani. Gravity Field slows him up as well. Someday on Ambition for the moment. Kube over the wall, still has that Gnar ultimate if he needs to use it. Parallel Convergence comes in, and it looks like KT just dancing backwards. They want to back off and make use of this Baron buff, and they'll be able to get out of this fight.
That was about the best fight that Samsung really could have hoped for right there, besides getting a good Gnar ultimate off. But Crown had a nice Chaos Storm Gravity Field combo, did chunk them out, which is what forced KT back instead of trying to end the game immediately, but it bought them maybe 30 seconds.
Now they seem to be walking over towards the Elder Drake to just complete the combo bust. Actually, Score just casually steals the blue, I guess.
Yep, as Ruler gets his own red.
I mean, how many blues has Crown actually got this game? We've seen Score on that blue side so frequently that it's probably just a handful, 1 or 2.
Yeah, meanwhile, Someday and Score just two-manning this Elder Drake. Looks like Arrow's going to come help out now. KT should be able to get it no problem. So Elder Drake and Baron buff. I would think that's probably enough to end the game.
Echo's definitely reached his fun and interactive stage now when it comes to itemization, Trinity Force, and all the tankiness you could ever ask for. Plus he has the ultimate, of course, so good luck dealing with that Echo, Samsung.
I haven't even managed to pop Someday's or Score's GA even once right now.
And Someday had second item GA, so that's actually been on for a really long time.
It's true. Yeah, you'd think KT could go for a pretty major dive here.
Oh, yes.
Oh, yes.
They're playing it safe, though.
Do dive. They are, but...
Score's wave clear with the true damage applying onto the Titanic Hydra is actually almost instant wave clear on a Rek'Sai, which is a crazy thing to say, but that means that the global pressure here is going to be a lot for Samsung to contend with. We're going to see minion waves top and mid crashing into their base.
Sending Gnar up top right now, try and dissuade Score from pushing further. But there's the Mega Gnar gone, and KT can wait that one out before diving.
That turret is so low right now. Kube trying to do everything he can to defend it. But meanwhile, they got the bot turret to worry about here too. They've got everything to worry about.
How low Kube has to get. He's tanking the cannon minion as well to stop this turret going down.
Yep. Wow, Score versus Someday, and Score is winning this one. Gets the inhibitor turret. Gets very low.
It's all right, he can just come back in.
Exactly, yeah. He can just go right back to that tunnel that he just made. Meanwhile, KT pushing in. Gonna take out that top inhibitor. And here comes Score. That looks like it could be the beginning of the end as the top inhibitor is taken.
KT really got back on track after a sloppy early game, and their Baron control and objective control overall has been very good in the mid and late stages of this one.
I might wonder why they're not doing more ending the game fast. They just don't really have the tools to do that, barring a turret dive from Echo. They don't seem to want to go the slightly risky route, so this is the percentage way to almost guarantee they pick up the victory. So it takes some time, it drags the game out for KT in full control.
With the GAs on Score and Someday, though, you'd think they could be a bit more aggressive as far as their diving goes. Fly a little bit low, though. Ooh, a lot bit low. Needs to be careful here. That Chaos Storm really chasing. Has to pull to get out of it. Now Someday has to flash. Samsung chasing. They may have found something. Someday gets caught up. Johnny with the nice knock-up. catches an Ash arrow to the face. Fly getting some health back on the Wolves. Samsung still chasing. They might get the kill to Johnny. No, he backs away. Score coming in, gets a flash knock up onto Ruler. Ruler saved by Wraith for the moment to score. Gonna have his GA popped. Cuvée ults, but immediately loses his Guardian Angel. A lot of GAs in this game. Goodbye, Cuvée. Arrow gets the kill. Meanwhile, Someday in the base, scaring everybody away. And looks like KT should be able to end it right here.
And Fly got a huge hemo play that took him from less than half HP all the way back to full to take that team fight.
Guess so. Wow.
KT turns it on its head.
Yeah, there goes the second Nexus turret. Another knockup comes in for score, and they should be able to finish it off. Just padding a couple more kills to the stats. And there goes the Nexus. Fly finally dying. Double kill for Crown, but it's not going to save the game as KT takes game one.
Well, the first few chapters of this game was certainly not to script. Specifically Someday, the guy who we said was the game changer for KT. 2 solo kills for Cuvée in the top lane kind of halted what ended up being a fairly inevitable move forward from KT. The moment that they got those kills, the Baron, the mid lane turret, the sudden 7,000 gold in, they never looked back, but there was a window for Samsung in this game, and that's probably more than KT can afford to give, given that they face SKT and increasing difficulty of opponents as they go forward, even if they win this series.
Yeah, we'll hope that Someday's jitters are out, and for Samsung, couldn't have really asked for much more in the early game. A couple of solo kills by Cuvée onto the ace player of KT, but they couldn't transition. And Cuvée actually did a good job in that game overall, but it was tough once we saw KT start to get together. Fly really holding his own in those team fights.
Yep. So looking for a little bit cleaner of a game from KT in game number 2, but if that happens, what in the world does Samsung do? Damage to champions, obviously, Victor. Looking pretty good in that category, but yeah, well.
Gnar actually did more damage than anyone on the side of KT, including a Sivir. That was all the mini Gnar hyperprocs, of course.
Yeah, I'm sure.
Wailing away on Someday in lane.
Yep.
Gnar's laning phase was good. I think Cuvé's team fighting wasn't the cleanest, though. Didn't see the Gnar ultimates from him.
No, but a lot of times KT was forcing fights in unpreferential states around that Gnar bar, so.
Yeah, if you don't get to kind of set up the fight you're looking for, it's hard to get those big, 3-4 man Gnar ultimates. Samsung looking a bit despondent in the booth, but it's a best of 5. Anything can happen. Don't go anywhere, guys. When we come back, game 2, KT versus Samsung on LCK Summer on OGN. We'll be right back.